Well, why did you go on Fox News anyways? You knew what you were going to run into.
Because only cowards play home games.
Okay.
Only cowards play home games all the time.
You want to go to an away game?
Yeah. You got to, no. To be great, you got to win where you ain't supposed to.
Okay. So you go on the show, and you and Megyn Kelly basically get into it.
Sure.
Here's what we do know. He had a permit to carry a gun. When you get a permit to carry a gun, they tell you exactly how to act when a police officer pulls you over.
That doesn't mean he didn't threaten the officer.
You're willing to give them a presumption of innocence.
I'm not giving them presumption. Well, the law gives them the presumption of innocence.
No, their badge gives them a presumption of innocence.
We don't know the facts. I mean, we saw this happen with Michael Brown and Ferguson.
And we still don't know the facts there. We have a police officer's word and a grand jury's word.
No, we have the Department of Justice's word.
The Department of Justice shut down Ferguson. Ferguson had to be shut down because it was so corrupt.
The Department of Justice found that the police there had endemic racism. They found that.
Right.
But they also exonerated Officer Darren Wilson.
That's not a.
And they found hands up, don't shoot was a lie.
Let me ask you something.
And that Michael Brown was the aggressor.
Wow. Here's what I'll say.
Don't wow me.
Don't tell me not to wow you. I can say wow if I want to, and I'll tell you this.
That is what they found.
I'll tell you this. They found systemic racism, right? So it's unbelievable. They also found systemic racism, and we know that Darren Wilson left the department because it was so racist it had to be disbanded, and he went to Ferguson, another department that is rife with racism.
So that makes him a racist.
Absolutely. You know what? I have no problem.
Michael Brown grabbed that officer's gun and tried to shoot him in his patrol car.
No one has proven that.
Listen, it's funny to have a white woman try to overtalk me when I've been married to a black woman all this time.
You've been in training.
Come on, you light work. I got to do this just to eat. But you invited me to there's a certain amount of decorum you have to have. And I am respectful for the fact that I'm in your house. Like, it's all kind of psychological stuff. Her chair was higher, so mine would be lower.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah, look at it.
Okay.
Her chair was higher. All these psychological things happen because people want a certain affect.
Okay.
And I was literally there to talk about the book and my perception of policing, and you start this conversation out with a discredited liar. This dude not only discredited, he was a liar, he got him off, and he moved to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is the bastion of white ring races. He moved there. So everything we thought he was. Now, I'm not saying that meant OJ was guilty, or innocent, but he still was he was the embodiment of everything we ever believed that they would be. And that's the guy you choose to be your expert.
Okay.
We can't have an honest conversation.
Well, I guess this book was birthed from that, Fox interview, where I guess, what you said was that white people like to give us advice, like to give black people advice so often that you decided to write a book with all white people's advice.
Right. It was that. Well, if you just comply, if you didn't dress like a thug. So let me ask you something. You can't have these dualities exist. You can't tell me that you're innocent until proven guilty, but then make the same argument that if you dress a certain way or speak a certain way, you should be killed. Those dualities can't exist. Mm-hmm. Don't break the law. Well, if I'm innocent until proven guilty, why is a cop administering justice? Those dualities can't exist. If you're telling me we're a nation of rule of law, but you blunt that law to get and turn the other way when it doesn't work out like it's supposed to, then we don't have a rule of law. He shouldn't have dressed this way. He shouldn't have spoke this way. He shouldn't have acted this way. Those are not tantamount to a death sentence, but you're okaying them.
Right, because the book is very tongue-in-cheek.
It is.
It's very don't move too fast or you might get shot. But then again, don't move too slow because you might get shot. And don't listen to this music, but then again, don't listen to this music. And it's really one of those things where I guess at the end you say, well, the best way not to get shot is not to be black.
Let me ask you something, an honest question to anybody watching this. Black people have been killed by the police in these manners since before, when they were slaves, they were killed this way, right? Jim Crow, when you had no reason to fear them, they were killed this way. Throughout the 50s, 60s, 70s, they were killed this way, with no one being brought to account. What's the difference now? If you can answer me, what is the difference now? You've always said we were doing something that lined up to your eyes so you could justify it. Because at our core, we're still human beings, and our id screams to us that we're doing something wrong. So you have to justify. He looked at me. He talked to me. He was disrespectful. He didn't say boy. What's different between you saying that to me in the 60s, 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s to you saying to me, he shouldn't have been here. He shouldn't have been disrespectful. He should have called. What's the difference?
I mean, there's more cameras now.
That's it.
So now you could actually see for yourself and make
Right.
your own decision.
And nothing ever changes.
Right, because even the body cams really haven't made much of a difference.
What's the difference between, if I see, we watched Philando Castile get murdered. We watched it.
Yeah.
We watched Tamir Rice get murdered. We watched it. John Carver we watched it. So the very reasons they murdered us before are the reasons they murder us now, except we get to see it in high def. And I think the only way I knew to assuage that kind of anger and to not be negative was to write a book that lampooned this kind of conscious idea.